everyone, welcome to another Music Talk Tuesday, and today I thought it would be interesting to discuss music's uh, role within film. I thought this would be a very interesting topic since I sort of addressed how radio has had a significant impact as far as how music is distributed, and I think music within itself has drastically affected the way we see filmmaking. Um, and it's pretty much been around since the founding. Well, really, since we established talkies, where you could actually hear what was going on. So that's really when music started being a part of film, and it has been there pretty much ever since. Now, the interesting thing about um, what music does within film is it gives the film a certain amount of weight and importance. And it does a really good job of establishing a mood. You'll especially see this within films, like within the beginning, when you have the setup. When you hear those notes coming, you get an understanding of what this film is trying to give you. For example, Jaws' theme or the Terminator theme. You're getting an idea of what the film is trying to showcase. And it sort of lays that foundation and groundwork as far as on an emotional level how the audience uh, will react. And large part, music can be used for the good and for the better of a film, I think, in large part. But there have been some times where I think music has been sort of, misused or overplayed. Like you'll see sometimes that they'll play songs that already exist. I personally prefer the music when I personally prefer when music is used as kind of like it's kind of like a background layer that provides the extra sense of importance, rather than just kind of having a song going. But I'm sure people have various opinions on that, but it has been used in that format as well as within the more traditional, instrumental format, um, as well as some songs that are created for the soundtrack to the movie or something of that nature. So there have been a lot of different ways in which music has been incorporated into film over the years, and also with musicals, for example. Disney and musical films have also drawn a significant influence from music and using music as a means to tell a story. So it has sort of music has sort of had its place within film, and you almost could say the music itself makes the scene all the more entertaining or interesting or encapsulating to watch. You can kind of see this if you see scenes, for example, like in E.T. when he's leaving. Can't imagine if no music was playing as he's like boarding the ship, You don't feel the same amount of weight as you would when you hear those notes from John Williams. So again, it does give this immense amount of power to a scene, to an image. But again, sometimes it's used in a way that's kind of generic and not as creative or as inspiring, or sometimes it's there for unnecessary reasons. But you can sort of tell when music is inserted and if it's inserted for an appropriate kind of reasoning. for example, Forrest Gump, they take songs that are from that time period that were already created uh, uh, before the film came out, and weren't really designed for the film. But when they're inserted within this film, they do work because they do exemplify a sort of understanding of what people were going through within the time period. They reflect a certain amount of mood that ends up happening throughout the film. So again, outside music can be used, I think, either fairly well or not as well, or can be overused maybe in certain areas. But regardless, I think it's just how the film uses the music that I think uh, really ultimately is what leaves an impact, at least on me personally. And the interesting thing I think too about music within film is it's sort of given us a revival for instrumental work. Usually, usually when we associate with instrumental work, purely instrumental work, we automatically think of the classics like Mozart, Beethoven, so and so, etc., etc. But we don't we don't really usually think of our time period as one where tons of new classical artists are really coming out with different material. But luckily, film has sort of given an outlet to the instrumental area of music and has launched people's careers. For example, John Williams has scored a number of famous uh, instrumental works. Um, Hans Zimmer is another perfect example. So, it's almost like filmmaking kept that instrumental uh, sort of necessity um, that was required for films alive, instead of it being sort of just dropped off and people just listening to whoever was popular in the 1700s or 1800s, and I think that's something that's really good and has given a certain amount of importance to how music has an impact on sort of storytelling, because some people like to think that music has a way of again expressing emotions, but uh, through storytelling you can get something even more powerful and interesting, and a lot of that is showcased through the music. If you look at the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, a perfect example of how you conduct an instrumental journey sort of piece all the way through, um, you know, all the way to the end. So it's one of those things um, where it's been an unlikely source, but it is one that is in a very important source that I think people sometimes miss. Usually people think of the visuals, the effects, and the acting or the story, but large time people usually don't think of the music, but the music is sort of part of that, is sort of what gives the weight to everything that's going on. Um, and I think it's definitely going to be still a big part of filmmaking, a big part of art. Um, and I think we'll still continue on, and people will use it in however means necessary. Some ways I think are a little bit, again, I think that sometimes the way in which people use music can be a little bit contrived. But other times I feel like they can give something that's very inspiring, very uplifting, and very engrossing, and is something that I ultimately remember from the film, which is the music. And I hope that it continues to stay, and I hope we continue to see different artists coming out with within that do try to hone in on this sort of market of music within film, uh, because it is there and it is going to probably stay. And its impact has changed over the years, but I think it's definitely here to stay, and it's probably not going to go away because everybody's going to want to have something um, at some point within the film that kind of reflects a certain amount of mood, a certain amount of intensity, that music sometimes provides and does it well. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about this topic. It's really interesting, and I'd be more than happy to hear what people's favorites are, and what you personally enjoy. Because I think it's definitely an interesting look uh, into what maybe some people may not consider when they're watching film, is how the music plays a pivotal role in it. It's almost like it's the it's the sort of man behind the curtain, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I think that's really all I can say. If there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you on the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.